Hi, my name's Matthew Rose and I am the founder of Neuroclusive Theatre. So, how does the workshops work? How does it work? So, this is what you're probably gonna ask at this point. So basically how the workshops work, either I'm kind of testing out the idea right now, but I'm kind of looking at the possibility of doing like maybe disabled awareness workshops, or like one-off workshops, or maybe even a term of workshops. Basically, these workshops are giving awareness and teaching about memorization techniques and working with and being aware of other learning styles, so that not only the people understand themselves, but also the people around them know how to communicate and kind of know how to approach somebody rather than making assumptions. Because from my own experience, I am what would be counted as an LD performer, so a performer with learning difficulties, or as I would like to say, obstacle gifts or learning differences, or even just neurodivergent or whatever. And so basically I kind of found out these things and memorization techniques and apps and cheap approaches, and I thought maybe I could make this into a thing. And so I started to bring these in, and that's what really made me think about it. And so this is basically, I want to set up a community of people that primarily, first off, I want to go into all areas of neurodivergent or learning disabilities or learning difficulties or whatever, to see how things work with different people. Because when people have who are neurodivergent, there are different needs for different people, and so people have different wants, needs, and objectives than somebody else. So for my experiences with having dyslexia and dyspraxia are different to somebody else who could have the same thing. So there could be somebody who might have the same thing as I do, and might have the same traits and habits and quirks, I suppose, that make them. It could be similar to mine, but not everybody is different. And this is the point of the workshops, is to have self-discovery and to kind of understand oneself, or like the people around them to understand them. Because otherwise, because from my own experience, I had other people in my life assuming that I was very good at one thing, when in fact it could be the opposite. Or like I was not so good at one thing when in fact I was good at another. So only I knew that, not the other people who kind of were around me. But I feel the person who has individual learning styles really should take responsibility for themselves, so they can help others. So, my story. I was born 12th of August 1982. No. Basically, I, my history with education wasn't exactly great. My mum was a school nurse and had worked with children for many years, and must have been when I was about 7, 8, I think. Oh, I'm not entirely sure. My mum noticed that there was something up with me, and she wasn't totally sure about it. And so she was kind of thinking that could my son have she thought a learning disability. And so she was finding things out, and she went to go and find out to have a checkup or a check for dyslexia. And so I had this checkup done. I do remember going to this place where it wasn't far from where we lived at the time, and it was like the best playground ever. It was like the bestest place for a child to go to. And I don't remember much about that test because it was years ago. But not long after that, I was officially diagnosed from this children's therapist that I had dyslexia. But there was something else. My mum was kind of like, hey, like, something's a bit off still. I don't think it's this other thing. And so at the time, there was like a news bulletin about this new thing or new disability at the time called dyspraxia. And so my mum wanted to find out more about this particular obstacle gift. And so she got to know more about it and then got tested again. Well, I got tested again. And I do remember this test, actually. Basically, I had to put on this apron, and it was in the same place, by the way, that I explained earlier. I do remember getting a can of foam and feeling like I'm doing something bad, but when in fact, actually, it was a good idea. So I had to basically get this can of foam or shaving foam, put it on the mirror of this therapy place that I was in, and to just make a pattern. And so that was what I was told to do. So I did it, but this actually proved something, because when apparently, from what I know of, so don't quote me on this, but from what I was told at the time, if I wasn't so-called dyspraxic, I would finish the job with one hand, like spraying the foam with one hand. But if I was dyspraxic, I would get the can of foam in my right hand, because I'm right-handed, and change it to the other hand. That's what I did. And so I got diagnosed with dyspraxia. So my two my obstacle gifts that I have are dyslexia and dyspraxia. So how do they affect me in different ways? They affect me because it's not obvious, and this is why that I wanted to set up this workshop idea, because I would be counted as somebody who is like mild, or like in the grey area, as I always call it, because on first impression, I look kind of somebody who is so-called able, when in fact I have personal obstacles that I find difficult, and that's what makes me kind of my own troubles like different. But the only things that make it come up is with my dyspraxia, I'm very clumsy, hugely clumsy, but it's also to do with milestones apparently, and like physicality, I'm very typical case of dyspraxia. But dyslexia, I have problems with writing essays, long essays, and comprehending things. So, but the thing is, I can read a book, I can, but I can't comprehend. And so I would need to read a book like 16 times over in order to understand something. And so being a performer like myself, like, oh my God, like, but you're dyslexic and you have to read scripts and remember stuff. And so this is why that I've kind of found my own way of like remembering things, and so that, because I don't remember things in a so-called like typical way, because if I remember things in the most typical way, it would be quite difficult for me. So what would, I think, if I had to remember a monologue, for example, it would take me like, literally, no joke, 2 weeks. No, yeah, 2 weeks to know a paragraph because of my capacity for learning. But when I started using these so-called techniques and other things, it took me from a couple of weeks to a couple of days to learn one paragraph. And that was amazing. And so then on, I went from being in a so-called mainstream primary school because my parents worked there, and when I got to year 5, I had the chance to go to skip a year and go into senior school, because I was actually put back a year when I was in primary school so that I could kind of catch up. But as soon as I got to year 5, I skipped my last year of primary school, or I think it's elementary school in America, but which would be about age 9, 10. So I went from year 5 to year 7. So that was a big jump. But I chosen to go to a senior school, which was at the time, for people who were similar to myself. So I went to what was deemed as a MLD school, so a minor learning disability school, so which catered for people, again, as I said, similar to myself, so who dyslexic, dyspraxic, all the things. But now the school where I went to are now catering to people who are more on the severe end of the spectrum rather than that are in the middle of the spectrum. And so I did all my things the same way as I would in the senior school. So I wasn't treated any differently or any worse or any better, actually. But I did do my GCSEs, but my GCSEs at the time were kind of lower than average, because obviously they were catering to students who had mild learning difficulties, or as I say, obstacle gates or learning differences. I did do my SATs, my year 9 SATs, but I didn't really do my GCSEs or even my A-levels at that time. And so I did do like an equivalent, but it wasn't to the so-called mainstream standard. But at that time as well, I was doing like drama exams and things. And so from when I was about 13 or 14, I was told this by somebody, I won't say who it was, but I was told that whenever I've had a drama exam, they would say to this person, like, don't let this person, for example, it would be a total waste of time for them to carry on with drama exams because of what they have. Or like, it would be a total waste of time, or like, there's no use for him. That boy who came in and did the exam, I don't think this would be really for him. And so this is what she told me, this person told me at 13 or 14. And to be honest, I'm the type of person that would be like, I'm going to do this, yeah, prove them wrong. Yes, I'm that type of person. But it did affect me, anxiety-wise. And so I was given all the help and all the support, and like, I'm really appreciative of that. But there were some parts of that where I was still learning in the same way as everybody else, but I was given more time, I was given more of this, which was, again, I was grateful for, but I still needed that something that I get to learn in my way. But at that time, there was nothing, really nothing. And one exam I had the head of Lambda, of all people. I was like, oh. And so my heart sank. I thought, because I really tried to prep for this exam as much as I could, and I really couldn't. I found it so hard, and so I was so upset, really worried, but I do remember him. I was 16 at the time, and I went in nervous as heck, and the person in charge said what happened with me, and so giving them like a little bit of a heads up. And so this guy, head of Lambda at the time, so sweet, incredibly patient, and like really, really kind of intuitive and really supportive, and just all the things. And I do remember saying something, and he laughed non-stop, completely. And as I was leaving, he said, hey, like, there's something about you where you should still keep on doing this, because you exude something. You exude an, before even X Factor was even a music program, you exude an X Factor. You exude something, but I don't know what that is. And that's what really made me keep going. And so years later, I managed to get a degree, and here I am. And so, yeah, my journey to, I don't want to go on for too much because now it's like 15 minutes nearly, but I've had a bit of a rocky journey. And so this comes to today, where I've kind of like made this workshop called Neuroclusive, and here it is. So the end result of what I want to achieve is to basically give like a place for somebody who's similar to myself, parents, teachers, carers, foster people, all the things, to help them understand and to give awareness to other forms within the spectrum of learning styles, memorisation, and all those things, so that they can not only help the people in their life or themselves, but they can also help others as well. And so I have this website, as you can see down below. I want to do like a Facebook group or something so that people can go to and pass on like memory tricks or like learning style hacks or like things like that, so that we can all help each other, because really humans learn better in packs than alone. So I will leave it at that. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you. See ya. Bye.